Welcome to the podcast, which is all about the world of direct response. Are we on the air? I'm your host, Sean Wilsey, and for over 30 years I've hosted shows on cable shopping networks. And now I want to be your guide into this world as we look at the ever-changing nature of the industries.
End of an era in St. Petersburg. After nearly 50 years, Home Shopping Network is closing its operations here in the Bay Area.
And just hours ago, the network's parent company said it is consolidating operations out of state. 10 Tampa Bay's Miguel Octavio is live from HSN's headquarters in St. Pete.
Yeah, Miguel, disappointing news for longtime viewers.
Yeah, Dave, people have longtime fond memories of these longtime hosts and also just waking up in the middle of the night to see good deals on screen. The magic happened right here in St. Pete at HSN's broadcasting facilities. But because of this move, a company spokesperson did confirm some jobs this year will be eliminated.
What you're listening to is surprising yet not surprising audio from Channel 10, WTSP in Tampa of the closing of the HSN campus in Tampa, St. Pete. Standing by the way, Aaron Kessler from ShopHQ, so we're going to be chatting with him about ShopHQ, which, as of the time of this recording, is about 2 weeks away from shutting down their television operation. But this is the news that broke last week, January 29th, again, as of the time of this recording, that Qurate, the parent company, they're the owners of QVC and HSN, is going to shut down the operations in Florida. Now, a lot of people have been totally shocked by this. I guess I'm shocked it didn't happen sooner. I've long wondered why, since they have so much duplication in what they're doing, that they didn't move everything to Pennsylvania a little bit sooner, just to save money. Let's continue with this audio of this reporter who is standing outside of the HSN campus in St. Pete.
Brenda Armentero still remembers
It was really fun.
the dazzling display of options to choose from when watching the Home Shopping Network.
To this day, my mom still have a purse, but
Wednesday, parent company Qurate Retail Group announced it's closing its St. Pete campus for good this year after 47 years in Florida.
Pretty iconic.
The company plans to consolidate HSN and one's competitor, Quality Value Convenience, or QVC. HSN production will move to Studio Park in Westchester, Pennsylvania, where QVC operates.
I don't have a lot.
By the way, and I'll back up that audio just a little bit here in a second. A couple months ago, QVC had announced, or Qurate had announced, that Studio Park was going to be broken up into different segments so that they could do more live streaming. They could do more social media. So all of these studios, which I've said forever, they don't need. As I've said, you can do QVC from a garage with a green screen or a big video wall. They're finally going to divide that up into smaller sections so that, yes, they can still do the live broadcast. Now I'm assuming there's going to be a studio for HSN. And in a couple weeks' time, by the way, we're going to have a little reminiscence about the HSN campus and what it was like and how it came to be, but that's down the road. So they've already planned out, it sounds like, space where HSN will be broadcasting from. And again, let me make it very clear because there's some misconception. HSN is not shutting down. They're just moving their facilities to Studio Park where QVC already is. And they're chatting with, looks to be like a millennial or something on the beach here in St. Pete. Let's see what she has to say.
So if I can buy it on the internet, it makes it a lot easier.
Shopping habits have changed throughout the years with more to choose from online. Its parent company says the move is aimed at expanding social media and streaming efforts.
When I was a child, you would wake up, you would accidentally fall asleep on the couch and wake up and you're like, there's the TV still on.
Despite the changes, there are fond memories from all ages before the digital era.
I would pretend that I was still sleeping so my mom would carry me to bed.
And it's those memories of shopping some longtime viewers hold closely.
And you took your time at home and you pick whatever you want, you buy it. Not anymore.
You know what? I like what she said there. You took your time. Maybe that's part of it, and I've never even thought about that. Never even considered that. The time. The fact that you're sitting at home, you're a little more relaxed, you're thinking about it, you're lingering over it. You know, it's no different than when you're at the mall and you're looking at clothing. You'll look at it, you'll try it on, put it back, think about it, go back. Is it still there? Oh, it's still there. So maybe there was a little bit more of a leisurely pace to it When you're on the internet, it's okay. I need a white dress shirt. I go on, I know my size, click, 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 and I'm done. I'm not lingering over it as much. So that woman might have hit onto something. We're in a different day and age. We're not lingering over things, not thinking about things like we used to. You watch a video on TikTok, it's 20 seconds. We're done. We're moving on to the next one. Seriously, the first time I've heard that part of the audio, I never played this all the way that far through. She might have been onto something there. Back to the reporter.
Now, to be clear, HSN will still be on the air, but by the end of the year, a spokesperson added, expect some of that live production to take place in Pennsylvania. Some jobs will be cut, some will be relocated, others will be also remote. All employees are expected to hear about how this move will impact their jobs by the end of March. Live in St. Pete, Miguel Octavio, 10 Tampa Bay.
Now, I don't want to work on speculation, and I've talked with some people at HSN, so I have an idea, but it's an idea how things might play out. I'm walking a fine line right here because I really don't want to speculate too much. I don't necessarily see all of the hosts wanting to relocate, especially some that have been living in Florida for decades. Their homes, their livelihoods are there, they're late in their career. They're going to want to pick up and move to snowy Pennsylvania from beachfront property in Florida. I wouldn't. I don't know. Maybe they love snow. Maybe they will. So I think it's going to be interesting how it plays out. I do know, again, it's rumor, but it's very good rumor that a lot of the jobs... Let me put it this way, because I asked one of the hosts there. I just said, how are things going? And the response from this host was a lot of tears. I think, unfortunately, that sums it up very well. So we will see. It's too early to tell. No moving truck is pulled up yet. And again, in a couple weeks' time, we're going to do a full show about the HSN campus, what it's like, because it's hard to imagine. It's a series of low-rise buildings and then the tower. I've been there a couple times, and it's a lot of real estate. What's going to happen to the real estate? It's going to be hard to repurpose, I think. I think the land is going to be worth a hell of a lot of money, so we'll see how that plays out. But it is going to be very, very interesting to see. There will be loss of jobs. I mean, that's a given, and that's the saddest part of all of this. From a business standpoint, I understand Qurate wanting to do this because, like I said at the outset, I'm honestly a little shocked that it didn't happen sooner because there is so much duplication between what goes on the HSN campus and up in Pennsylvania. So I understand it. And again, as a shareholder whose stock is worthless, thank you very much, I understand why they're doing it. But my heart breaks because I know, not as many as I used to because a lot have since left, but I still know so many good people at HSN. And for that, my heart breaks. So it is a sad turn of events no matter what. I am very excited to have Aaron Kessler joining me today, a truly versatile host who has a unique ability to connect with his audience and guests while sharing expert insights across all product categories. Known for his deep knowledge in luxury goods and prestige skincare, Aaron is the face of the popular weekly beauty show Wake Up Beauty, and he also co-hosted the top-viewed Wake Up in Style for 2 years, making him a true authority in the world of beauty and lifestyle. Aaron, it is great to have you joining me today.
Thank you so much, Sean. It's great to join for the podcast. I've been a long-time listener, but it's my first time joining you on the pod.
And honestly, again, when I started thinking about people from ShopHQ that I would love to have on here, you kind of went to the front of the line. And for the reason I said in the introduction is because I think you and I'm probably going to have to correct myself down the road. I think you and I are the only two male hosts in the history of the industry that have sold all product categories. I've done handbags. I've done fashion. Yes. Men traditionally don't do that. I've done skincare. I've done electronics. I've done watches. You just started exploding in watches just over the past year or so.
Thank you. Well, I found an immediate attraction to it. It's something I hadn't done until probably about a year and a half ago or so. I love anything you can go deep in, something with technical knowledge, something with story, something with a lot of history behind it. But I started originally with luxury accessories and still remains one of my favorite categories. Skincare, of course, out of everything, though. Oh, Manuela Marchesani with Isomers. Yeah. It is one of my absolute favorite things to present at the network is beauty.
For anyone hearing that, she was just on the past show, so go check it out. That was the second time, actually, that I've interviewed her. She is amazing. Since you mentioned the luxury part of things. Wasn't that how you started at ShopHQ?
It is now going on about 6 years ago now. And I always call
Wow.
it the best job I never knew I'd have, right? Like I actually before Shop HQ, I was behind the camera. I did photography, social media. So I created multimedia marketing plans for small businesses. I would do photography, video, email marketing, everything in that direction. And it was actually through Brian Kessler, his old boss, reached out and said they need a local luxury expert. So she asked a couple of times. I said no a couple of times. And then finally, she got me in for an audition. And it was something, the immediate time when that camera turns on for the first time, that red light went on, it just felt like the best rush, the most fun thing in the world. So it all started with sunglasses, then it moved to fragrances, luxury handbags, and from there, I guess the rest you could say is history.
Who was the first host you worked with?
Christine Quanley. Actually, I had two hosts the first day. Yes, she was my first show ever.
Oh, love her.
Christine. She was so fantastic. Just one of those people, it's like a warm light. It
Yeah.
feels like July sunlight. And then my second show, same day, was Daniel Green. So we had two shows. We sold out of all the products. We had nothing else to sell. It was two and two only.
Christine, most people don't know this. She started actually as my visual stylist back at
Are you
Shop
serious?
NBC. Seriously, I have pictures of me doing an Invicta watch show, and I don't even know why I had my camera on set. This was before iPhones, but I had my digital camera with me, and I've got a picture of her setting up an Invicta watch in front of me. I'll post it on social if I can remember to do that, because she is an amazing person. And we were just, before we started recording this, chatting about how I love it when good things happen to nice people, and she's a good example of a really genuinely nice person. One of the things, for those that don't know, Aaron and I, our paths never crossed at the network. I left when it was still Shop NBC back in 2012. Aaron, when did you say you joined 6 years ago?
So I was about the end of 2018 into 2019.
Okay, so I was long gone by then, and that's one of the reasons I wanted his take on what it's like there now versus when I was there, because I saw the network evolve probably a half dozen times in the time I was there. In these past 6 years, it's because Shop HQ was the last of the big three, quote unquote. QVC, HSN, Shop HQ. What really made Shop HQ unique? What made it different?
Well, I would say, and I got this from Lynn Shocker years ago. We were on a show together, and she said it's one of the last boutique experiences for home shopping. It gives you the high-end
put.
product, luxury goods. It
Yeah.
gives you that personal connection. And the presentation, too, it felt luxury. And she was a great example of somebody who really epitomized that and maintained it. But I would say that was the thing that always resounded with me is you get that experience. You get to, so you think of a luxury store, it's a security guard, it's the ropes out front. We get to do away with all of that, make luxury affordable, make it approachable. And that's something I always prided myself on from the very beginning. I'm like, no matter what your budget is, no matter where you're coming from in relation to luxury, you feel welcome. You feel like it's something you can enjoy reasonably and guilt-free. Like that was from sunglasses to fragrances to whatever I was presenting. That was one of my biggest prides was everyone felt welcome to the conversation of luxury from the very beginning.
And I think the hosts all kind of had that approach that they knew that what they were presenting was special and gave it the appropriate presentation.
Always. Yes, always. It's the right touch. It's the right stage for that product to stand on. And, it's funny too, because for a long time, fragrances was something that would come and go. And I think they always had a bit of a difficult time finding the right recipe. And then years ago, after the success of the luxury accessory category, they asked me if I would want to try the fragrances, which was interesting. From a personal standpoint, I've always loved fragrances. From a technical side, I was like, okay, let's really break this down. How do you present the invisible product? Like
right,
that,
right. Oh, beautifully put. How do you present the
Yeah.
invisible product? I'm stealing that. That is so good.
It's pure storytelling too, like the vocabulary, painting the picture. To me, you have the idea of what it is, and you have an experience there that you can translate. But I'm like, it's one where you have to rely on like the deepest pool of words and emotions and storytelling. Take me on that full journey, and it still remains to this day, along with beauty and skincare, one of my favorite things to present, because every single time you have it, it's a different experience. A Tuesday versus a Saturday night fragrance. It's such a defining moment for me to go into this thing. I'm like, it's invisible. We don't have smell-o-vision. You're not staying there with me experiencing it, but how do I take you on that journey? So you at home as the viewer, it's like I know exactly what I'm getting with the hardest thing to translate through words.
And I think, honestly, that's one of the things that makes you so good is that you have that ability, because you said it, it's storytelling, but when you have the invisible product, God, that is so brilliant. You're trying to convey something. One of the challenges of the industry has always been, well, with fashion, you can't feel it. So you have to find a way to explain the texture, the hand on something. And now when you get into fragrance, that goes to a whole nother level. It's like, how do you describe the senses, the aromas that are in it? And so that is a beautiful job that you do with that. One thing I've never, because I've honestly, you were the outside of when I had Bob Circosta on my first season about 4 or 5 years ago, I've never had a host on. And so it just dawned on me today, I've never actually asked, take me into the day of a host. So you've got a show, you're working, because a lot of people that are listening to this are viewers of the show. They don't know. They think, oh, he goes to work for 3 hours, that's it. Let's clear that up. What is a day like for you?
I absolutely love that question. Well, and so if I have shows on Saturday, say Wake Up in Beauty or The Beauty Shop, if those are the Saturday shows, I always look at it as my day begins Friday. So I have my buyers meetings, planners meetings, I meet with everybody ahead of time. And I always love prepping a show the day before and there's some people at work do it, the day of. Some people like doing it closer to the actual showtime. But I've always believed this: you win in preparation, you don't win on the field.
Amen.
It's something that I always look at it like, then the product, you get a good sense for what you resonate with, you get a good sense of tailoring that particular product to certain customers. So I always start with prep, and I always love that part of it too. Like, meet with the buyer, get their perspective, meet with the planner, see what they're excited about, see every step of the process as a holistic approach. And I always prep the first day, and then right before I do a second revision. And that just makes me feel like we know the whole landscape. The other thing I look at too is like certain shows day by day too, they're not islands, right? They're all train cars. We have to link them together. So my Friday shows should speak into my Saturday shows, promoting ahead. But it all starts, and I would say Saturday's a good example. The alarm goes off after prepping on Friday. First alarm goes off at 4:15 in the morning. You're getting ready. Like, you're up before the world. Like, I'm driving to work. The freeways are empty. The parking lot's empty. I walk into the building. I'm literally the person turning the lights on. And it's such a joy, because I'm like, it's the best job I never knew I'd have. So to walk into that, I'm like, it's fun to be able to set the tone. And I always, in that same vein too, going into every single day, every single show, like, I want to win and do the best presentation possible, but I want my team to win alongside me. That's been something I've always believed. Like, it's not one person, it's the total team and how you support them. So it's been, wonderful. Alarm, 4 a.m., get there usually about 2 hours before the show. If it's a larger block, I get there earlier, of course. Then our pre-production meeting is an hour before. That's where everyone comes to the table: producer, director, visual, sometimes a guest as well. We're lucky to have a lot of guests in person these days. And then we get to go on. And for 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours is our normal these days. 2 is sometimes, but most of the time it's a 3 to 4 hour window. Saturday is actually interesting, though. I have a split. So I'm usually the 7 a.m. show, and then I come back after Wake Up in Style, because I love that block and that category so much. It's always beauty every single Saturday. So we're on for 2 to 3 hours after.
You mentioned the guests being in studio again. You were there when COVID hit. How did that affect you?
It was wild. And I didn't know what to expect the first time I came back into the studio. We were able to, with social distancing, have the host on one side of the studio. They split the ped up, basically. So the host would be on one side of the studio. I would be 15, 20 feet away. And we do a split screen for a lot of it. At that point, I wasn't all that far into my journey at ShopHQ. I was pretty green. I was like a year and a half in. And suddenly the world gets turned upside down, right? Everything's different. The protocol in the building was completely different. And they did a really good job of making it still possible to still have the fun, to facilitate the conversations while being very safe. But it was such a large chunk of time there where it's like, I knew what it was before, and then that became the new normal. But then we finally got to go back to the same table. I'm like, oh, it feels so good to be so close in the conversation, feed off that energy. Like that was a bit of a shift, but I'm really happy to be back where we are and have people standing side by side. It feels really wonderful.
It makes a huge difference. And I think that the viewer and the customer appreciates having someone that is there. I've said many times, people are buying 85-inch TVs these days. You don't want to see cell phone video on your 85-inch television. You want something that's in good quality. Talking about your coworkers, already I know you're going to say Manuela. So let's skip over your favorite guest that you've worked with. Who else do you have just great memories of working with?
Oh, well, that I would say depends on the category, right? Thinking
Good
back
point.
to Mackenzie Childs, those were some of my initial, like, when my first host blocks came up, Mackenzie Childs was a big part of that. I think home was one of my categories. It comes very naturally. I love, creating beautiful spaces with beautiful objects. So through that, Kathy Norton became one of my favorite.
Great one.
Always plays, always great energy, always brings the right attitude to every single presentation. You can never tell if she's having a down day. Nobody knows about it except for her, which I respect. I'm like, that is so professional. She's so fun. From a fashion perspective, I think, and this is going all the way back, we're turning back to like the beginning of my career there. When Allie Krings came on for the first time, she and I, similar stages of life, immediate chemistry. She and I on fashion, such a blast. Erin Newberg, of course, I really love and adore, and I look up to her in a lot of ways too. But yeah, there's a lot of different, and Lynn Chakra, I will say, like, in my entire career, she and I get us in the studio together, any product, we're co-hosting it together. There's like a buzz, there's an energy, there's such a spark with her that I love her so much.
You mentioned any product, and this goes back to the fact that I think, again, someone will correct me. I guarantee a listener will correct me if I'm wrong. I think you and I are the only two that have done every product category. When you started this job, did you ever see yourself as the watch expert? Did you ever see yourself doing those shows?
In the beginning, no. I always looked at it with fascination, though, because it was the furthest thing from what I had knowledge in. And again, I love something I can learn a lot about, something that has depth and story and a lot of technicality to it. So it was always something I looked at with a certain reverence. I mean, I would go by those studios. I would watch, Ryan Johnson, Justin Zimmer, Heather Hall, Daniel Green. You'd watch them in an Invicta show. I'm like, this is something so different and so far from my experience from where I started. But I actually found some of the most unexpected joy there, because I learned every single show. Like Constantine Weiss was my last show most recently on air. So to go into that and just listen, to set the conversation up right and hear from the makers, from the designers, from the founders of those companies, I have a lot of respect, because it is such an art form in a way, whether it's painting or sculpture or horology. I look at something like that and I'm like, God, there is so much, there's a lifetime of collecting for a reason there. So I have found such an affinity for it. Yeah. And out of all of them, that was one I had the most, I'd say, trepidation to do, certainly, sure, because there's so much technicality and you want to provide the best presentation possible, but it's through study. I really, from a formal training standpoint, received very little. And that's not to anyone's, discredit,
right,
but I've always been a self-study. So I watch the other networks, I study the other hosts, I have pages running, and this has been every single day for years. I watch at least an hour of home shopping from a variety of networks. USPs, CTAs, how do they talk about the product? How do you situate the product? How do you create the highs and the lows? So it's been really through self-study that I've garnered the most lessons from it.
USP, for those that don't know, is a unique selling point, and CTA is a call to action. They're terms that are very common in the industry, and sometimes we just throw these things out and assume everybody knows what we're talking about, so I just want to explain that. No, and I think that's what makes you such a strong host, is because I was cut from the same cloth, is basically my interview or my audition was at a conference hall at the Radisson South, and then they called me, put me on air for, I don't know, 90 minutes or whatever it was, with Charla, of all people. Imagine your first day on the air. Yeah, I mean, you're thrown out there with Charla.
Oh, love her.
And they offered me the job. It's like, oh, okay, so there's no training program, nothing. It's just, we were literally just starting up. We weren't even on cable yet. We were just on satellite. And so I also appreciate the self-study, because you have to learn all of these things. You have to become an expert in these. And this is the sink or swim part of the job. And this is where you swim, Aaron, and others sink, because they don't take it upon themselves to learn these things. And I think that's to the detriment of the industry. There was a host I worked with at Shop NBC. She's no longer in the industry, still won't say her name, but she found out one day she was not going to have a guest, and she literally said, I can't go on air. If there's no guest, I can't do the show. That's just, it's like they became that reliant on having an expert out there, and you need to be prepared to be that expert. And it sounds like you really take the time to become that expert no matter what it is.
Well, I pride myself on it too. I think coming from both perspectives, starting as a guest and then becoming a host. So I've spent sort of a 50-50 in terms of time over my years at ShopHQ in both roles. But I will say I prep as a host going into a show and going into a game plan, say if there is a reason why the guest isn't able to go, let's go. The show still goes on. I always believe that, and I always want that to be the case. So I prep actually both sides. I prep as the host, and then I prep from the other side to know both perspectives. I know my questions. I also want to know the answers, and it's really good. Like when you get a strong guest and you can play and volley, I've always equated to this, right? Like the best analogy I can say is like most people know the sandbox, right? Most people know their sandbox, they're comfortable there. But have you explored the rest of the playground? There is so much depth and diversity and directions that you can go. Take the same product, present it 100 times, give me 100 different presentations that are all equally as interesting, equally as entertaining. Like that is something to this day that I've found so much joy. But I think it's probably the affinity, right? Like I get into what it is, I get into the customer experience, I get into the fact that like I want you to be very happy with this product and experience, because it's not just a transaction to me, it's a relationship, it's your integrity, it's going into these presentations, whether it's watches or earrings or skincare. I want you to get home and be even more thrilled, but to be so excited, know all the technicals, like here's why I want you to have this product in your life and the difference it's going to make, but then I want to exceed that. I don't want to disappoint you. And that's been something I've really tried to do through every show, category, presentation. But yeah, that's the guest versus hosting is something funny because they've asked recently, are you okay doing solo shows? I'm like, of course. I can't do that for 4 hours at a time.
Right.
But am I okay with that? Absolutely. I've done watches solo. I've done fragrances solo, usually about an hour or so at a time. And when I do it, I'm like, this is fun. It's a lot of talking, but it's very fun.
Yeah. And people wonder why I don't do a video version of this podcast. Like, listen, you see enough of my mug on television. You don't need to be seeing it when I'm at home recording this. So, no, there's plenty of time to be seeing me. And I think one of the things that was great about ShopHQ is that your hands weren't tied. They get so formatted at some of the networks and they tried to do that to us at Shop NBC, and that's when I started to realize, okay, I'm not sure that this is right for me, because you had to do everything a certain way every single time in order. And it sounds like at ShopHQ they took those handcuffs off and said, do what you do what is representative of you and your personality and your skill level.
Yes, absolutely. And I also believe that's in brand building too. I feel like you should have a lot of different hosts with a lot of different perspectives, and that gives each customer the reason to build a relationship with them, right? Like I'm not an expert at electronics, but I am an expert in other things. So I want you to be able to come to those. And I love certain categories. We don't do all categories right now. Electronics is probably a good example of something I've done less of over time. But to have that experience and to be able to make it your own, right? Like to have more of a blank slate to play. And that's the other thing. Like we're not just watching for a product presentation. We're watching for community, for conversation, for connection. If you're watching at home and you just tuned in for the fun of it, I am so happy to hear that, and I hope you tune in over and over and over. It's not just one show on its own. Like I want a relationship with you through the TV. That's something it's so special. And it's something that I think we forget how much it means to customers to be able to make that, name by name connection, show by show. It's something I love.
Aaron, you are so fantastic. I don't want to end this just yet. We're going to continue this on the next podcast. So if nobody minds, we'll just pause for now and we will pick this up the next time that we gather together here for Are We On the Air? Listen, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the two main ways. That way you never miss a show. Plus, you can listen to the archive of past shows. I hope you'll check me out on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube at Sean Wilsey, my full name, one word, and on Instagram at SWilsey. Thank you for downloading this edition of Are We On the Air? We will continue with Aaron Kessler on the next show.
Yes, I know, Travis. That's why we give such bargains.
Copyright 2025, King Bobby Productions, all rights reserved.